All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We are so glad to have you with us today as we discuss how to prepare and bid on government contracts and how to do it well. We have one of the best in the business here with us today to discuss this very important topic, Ms. Raynese Edwards, and we'll hear from her in just a moment. But first, I'd like to, first of all, thank all of our members who were able to join us yesterday for the Women in Business Brunch. We had a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful time. And we look forward to seeing you again during the first quarter of next year for our Women in Business Conference, which is going to be an expanded Women in Business Brunch. We always have fun at those events. So if you missed it yesterday, that's okay. You'll get another opportunity to have great fun with us and fellowship and get some great information about how to grow and expand your business. And I'd also like to invite those of you who are not members of the Chamber to join today. It is your membership that allows us to bring you the information that you're about to hear today. This event is going to be recorded. It is being recorded now, so it'll be posted on our YouTube channel for view later on. And we also have some other training videos posted on our Greater Houston Black Chamber YouTube channel, one of which is called, has to do with capability statements. And we want our members to be as prepared as possible to go after contracting opportunities. So make sure you take the chance to look at the video when you get the opportunity, as well as some of the other videos that we have on our YouTube channel. So now, without further ado, I'd like to toss this to our Economic Development Committee Chair, Ms. Tico Reynolds-Hausman, who so graciously brought us Raynese and put this event together. So Tico, take it away.
Thank you, Carol. Good morning, everyone. And I also bring you greetings from the Chamber Board of Directors, of which I am also a volunteer. And I'm so excited for y'all today because you are in for a treat. Many of you may know Raynese Edwards, but she has been a mainstay in the Houston community advocating for small and minority businesses since Jesus was a boy. So her experience is vast. She's straight to the point. But she's very effective, and her clients have, under her expertise, been awarded millions of dollars of contracts. So I'm going to go ahead and read her formal bio, and then I'm going to kick it off to Ms. Raynese so we can get started so that you all can have plenty of time to ask those questions that you may have as far as RFPs. So Raynese leverages her momentous career of over 30 years to make communication seamless for the businesses she served. Fueled by 3 core tenets of leadership, she combines her well-versed knowledge of outreach with her solution-driven mindset to advocate for every initiative she serves. Celebrated for her work in diversity and inclusion, Raynese takes action to ensure that equity is at the heart of every diversity and inclusion strategy she champions. The work Raynese has done in the areas of communications, minority and community outreach, has garnered her awards both on local and national levels. And so without further ado, I'm going to turn the program over to Raynese Edwards.
Wow, thanks, Tico. Thanks, Carol. I'm listening to you, Tico, and I'm thinking, is that me she's talking about? But thank you very much for this opportunity. I am excited to be able to present to you. This is a passion of mine. And I have taken some time to really work through this. Tico told you, I'm very to the point. I'm very open. I'm very honest. We're going to just delve right in. Can everybody see my screen? I hope so. If you're not, and let me know you see it, we'll get to going. So I'm going to talk to you about what I'm going to talk about will not just be for government contracts, though that's primarily the arena that I am in. This works for every contract you're going to go after. You're going to get some leave behinds when I'm done. And we didn't mention it. I'd like for you, if you have questions, because I know what this is like, put them in the chat so that when we get to the Q&A portion, if you've forgotten your question, we can at least answer it and go back to it because you might have some others. So let's talk about what the keys are to a successful response. Read the document. So many times people don't read the entire document. And so I'm going to tell you, read it from the cover to the last page. And you're going to hear me say this quite a bit. And then after you read that document, I need you to read it again. I have to tell you, I do this a lot, but I'm in the midst of responding to one now, and I have read this document 10 times. And I haven't even started writing. And then after you've read it again, read it again. And I say this a lot because inevitably you see something that you did not see the first couple of times you read it, okay? So in that solicitation, I talk about reading it again. Critical information is found in various areas of that RFP. It might be in the addendum. It might be in the appendix. It might be in the scope of work. You just have to read it several times to make sure you truly understand it. And then after you've done all of that, go back and read it one more time. So let's talk about what some of those keys are. When you're reading that document for about the 4th or 5th time, I'm going to tell you to read it with a pen and paper, so that you are writing down those necessary questions that you have that you don't understand. Those questions could be for yourself, but they could also be questions that you need to submit as a part of that RFP. If you have gone after and bid on work, you know that in most of them, there is a date, and you have to have those questions in by then. So you want to make sure you're writing down your questions. You're not waiting until the pre-bid to ask them. You want to write them down. Keep reading and writing. Get a highlighter, highlight it. I say to you what I do for myself. I highlight it, I write them down. I go back, I see if I understand it. If I don't understand it, I'm going to ask another question. And so read the document. Right? Because now you've got questions. Maybe there are some others that come up when you go through it that next time. Okay, so now we get to the part. Right? Pre-bid meetings. Most of your procurements are going to have a pre-bid meeting, and it's highly recommended that you attend. Some of them are mandatory, not all of them. But the key to that pre-bid meeting is really the ability to maximize your attendance. So you've read the RFP, you understand, you believe what they want. You kind of have in your mind that you can go after this work, or you might have in your mind who you need to partner with, or you might have in your mind who on your staff can help you. Maximizing your attendance at that meeting allows you to identify and meet new subcontractors, new primes that you might be able to work for on another one, and it gives you an opportunity to talk to them. Little different in today's environment, right? Because most of this is done online in a lot of cases today. So with that said, make sure you get that sign-in sheet. That sign-in sheet is so important. Why is it important? It's going to give you their names, their phone numbers, the name of the company. It allows you to do some research. So always, always make sure, even if you're a sub or if you're a prime, do your research on that company, because that's how you're going to know if that's a company you want to partner with or be a subcontractor too, right? Because not always are you going to be the prime. You might be the sub, but you want to know who you're subbing to. You don't want to just be on the contract and then you find out this sub sucks, for lack of a better term, or has some issues, legal issues that you don't want to be tied to. Do your research. Use that sign-in sheet for that. And then after the pre-bid, make contact with people. It is those contacts, because I'm going to tell you, in many cases, if we're honest, by the time you get to that pre-bid, and actually by the time you get to the procurement being released, if you haven't been following what that organization is doing, especially when you start to talk about in government arenas, teams have already been made. They've already made connections. They already know who they want to be their printing company or their t-shirt vendor or their catering company or their construction company to do certain work. So you got to be making those contacts. That sign-in sheets allows you to make those connections for future bids. It's not always for the one you're doing. So you went to the pre-bid, you got all your questions out, and remember, they're going to take those questions and they'll share it with everybody. Now you've heard different people talking about it at the pre-bid. Go back and read it again. I told you you'll see this a lot. We're going to talk about reading it. But now let's talk about a couple of things. I'll talk a little bit about one of the major keys to success is knowing if you should even go after the work, right? We see this great opportunity in front of us and we go, oh, I can do that. I'm going to bid on it. So I'm going to share with you what I use, and we're going to provide you with this. Okay, now it doesn't want to move. We're going to provide you with this. Hopefully you guys can see this. This is what I call a bid, no bid. And it's just a form that I use. This isn't the one. I'm sorry, that's a different worksheet. This is the one we want to look at. This is what I call a bid, no bid. I think it's critical for us as business owners, especially small business owners like most of us are, to really walk through a checklist to say, is this work that I should go after, right? Not that I want to go after, but that I should, and that it's a sound business decision for your organization. So when you're doing it, this is where I start. Do I have a conflict of interest? Well, if I do, I probably should stop right there. Just quit. It's a conflict. No need in going any further unless there's a way to resolve it, right? Does it fit with your strategic plan? Well, the real question is, do you have a strategic plan, right? Have you developed what your plan is for next year? Do you know the direction? Are you making a turn and doing something else in that following year? Will this fit into what you want to do and where you want to lead your company to be? If yes, then you should continue. If it doesn't fit in your strategic plan, you might not want to go after it. And now that's just real talk. You know, a lot of everything isn't for us. And so there are some that we might go, you know what? That's not the direction I'm going. It's taking me back where I was, and I'm trying to go forward to do something else. And so you'll want to consider that. And then, do I have the necessary qualifications? And if I don't have them, who do I know I can partner with? Hopefully all of you know what your limitations are, but you know who you can go to pick up where you're weak. I do it all the time. I use a variety of people to pick up on areas where I'm not strong. And I don't try to be the smartest person in the room, because if I am, that's a problem. So understand that. Can you find somebody that you can partner with so that you have all of the necessary requirements that are in an RFP? And here's something that we don't talk about a lot. Will the staff be available to work on the project? As small business owners, we stretch ourselves very thin, extremely thin, right? And if you're the owner, or if you have a business and it's in some cases just you're all over the place. Excuse me, right? You got to do HR. If it's just a few of you, you're doing HR, you're doing payroll, you writing RFPs, you're doing all of this. But when it comes time to pull that staff, are they going to be available to work on that project? Can we meet all of those RFP requirements? Now, if there's 20 requirements, you got to meet 20 requirements. You can't meet 5 of them and say, oh, I'm going to go after this anyway. Because if they say this is required, you must have this certification, this license, and you come to the table without it, you're not going to be considered for it, because they're going to read through it to see it. And sometimes you're going to have to add it to it, right? And if you haven't partnered with somebody who can help you, then you don't meet the requirements. And then we get to something that's really key. Is this project profitable for my company? Now, there are times when we take projects that might not be profitable because we want to get that job so bad. And I'm going to say to you, know how to price your products and services. If you haven't learned that, that is the key to every bid you're going to do. Because you, and I've seen it, I know Tico has seen it, Carol's probably seen it. People go after bids and they bid so low so they can win. But then when it comes time to really put the pedal to the metal, you can't do it because you don't have the money to buy supplies. You don't have the money to buy materials because you didn't price it the right way so that you would be able to do it. And now it's not a successful project. And guess what? There are always legal ramifications that are listed and told in those procurements. If it's 5 years, it's 5 years. Now, you can be put off of the project and you can, decide you don't want to go forward, but how often do you want to do that? So it is critical that you know how to price your products and services. And guess what? Everything has gone up. So hopefully as you are planning for 2021, you have identified those areas in your company where pricing has gone up, materials, et cetera, so that as you're bidding, you know what that is. That is so critical. And if it's not profitable, can you afford to absorb that loss? Sometimes we do. Sometimes we want to get connected with the city or with the state or, with TxDOT or Harris County or even a private organization that we're willing to take a loss. I don't know about you, but I'm not a nonprofit. So for me, it is truly all about the profit. And I hope that that is true for the organizations that are on here and represented today. But there are times when you do take a loss because you want that opportunity. And that's okay. That's a business decision that we all have to make. And based on all the factors that are you going to be competitive? Are you going to be competitive with those that you're bidding against? Do you have an idea? Have you done your work to see if it is a procurement that was out there before and somebody won it? Have you gone out and done the research to see who won it, what their pricing was, et cetera, as much information as you can get on who that incumbent is and why, right? That it's out on the street again. So you want to know all of those competitive factors. That is so important. And a lot of people don't go through the time to find that out. And I'm going to suggest to you that if you're going after a procurement and it is one that someone else has had, that you do your research and pull the necessary documents that you need to have pulled to find out what was going on with that and how they won. And then if you win, can you deliver? Can you deliver the project if you win? That can go back to your pricing. That can go back to your team structure. That can go back to your staffing. It goes back to so many different areas. Can you deliver? Because what's the point? The reality is a well-written RFP response takes a lot of time. And if you want to practice doing them, that's fine. But I do them to win. And I'm hoping that you do also. So if you win, are you ready to start work? If you want a procurement today, and it says you're going to start on January the 17th, is your whole team ready to start on the 17th? Or do you have some people out of pocket who really can't come into the project until March? Because you're going to be required to provide an org chart of some sort in many cases. You're going to be required to provide your staffing so that people know who are on the project. There may be testing, there may be any number of things. Are you able to deliver? And then, and this probably sounds really kind of out of pocket, but you just heard about this procurement on Friday and it's due next Wednesday. Can you complete that proposal by then? I don't know. Only you know the answer to that, right? But can you complete it? If you can, great. You're better than me because I don't know that I could turn one around that quick unless it's one that I've done before and I can take one out of my pocket, out of my folder, out of my jar and plop it down and not have to do any work on it. And we're going to get into that and why I talk about that in a little bit on are you ready to complete it? So if we continue to talk a little bit, these are some of the questions. These are just the questions that are just kind of walked through on being successful and what are those keys and what are the questions that you have to ask yourself, right? And maybe you're not just asking yourself, maybe you're on the team and you need to have this conversation as a team. That's okay also. So now you've decided, we're ready, we are going to bid. Yay for you. This is when some of the work starts. Go back and do what? Read that document again. And again, I say, now you're reading it for a different reason. Why are you reading it? You're reading it because now you want to divide and conquer, right? You want to define the responsibilities. You know, so many times it's one person that is writing that response. And I say to you, while that works, it is better to divide and conquer on that, because maybe you have someone in your company who has written your safety plan. Go to that person and get the safety plan. Don't try to write a new one if you already have one. Get that person to be responsible for updating it, rewriting it so that it fits into what is required in that RFP. There's so many parts to writing the RFP that you need some help, right? So you want to pull together a strong team of what are called subject matter experts. And they should be within your company or within the team that you've developed and put together. Look, don't just try to get it all done yourself when you've got people who can help you. What I do suggest is that the writing should be done by one person, but the information should come from numerous people, because there is much to be said about writing in one voice. We write differently. And so you want it to be cohesive. And so you want many people involved with providing information, but you want it to come from one voice of writing. And then coordinate the process. Develop a schedule. Develop it and stick to it, right? So when you get to that schedule, develop a checklist. And I'm going to show you a checklist that I use in just a minute. But I'm going to be honest with you. I give my team the wrong due date. Yep, I said it. I admit it, I lie. I give them the wrong due date. Why do I give them the wrong due date? Because I need to have time, and we all need time to have some buffer in there. And it only takes one person to be off by an hour or a day in returning information when you have to submit it. So don't give them the date that, you know, the day before it's due. Give it to them a week before so that you've got some buffer in there to read it. And we'll go through that in the checklist, to read it, to make changes, and then work backwards from when that bid is due. So if the bid is due February 15th, I really want to have everything I need, for me, preferably February 1st, right? So it's giving me 45 days, somewhere in that area, to get everything I need pulled together, get it written, and go through some of the things on the checklist. So let's talk a little bit about what that checklist, come on, looks like. And it just decided to go away. Okay, give me just a second. Oh, I just lost my checklist, sorry. Okay, we'll pull it back up. Quality control, as I'm pulling up the checklist, let's talk a little bit about quality control. This is a key. When people are reading that checklist, when they're reading your response, they're looking at punctuation. They're looking at spelling. They are looking at everything you put into there, right? So you want to make sure that you have reviewed it, reviewed it, reviewed it. And in addition to that, you want to make sure you have checked with your references, because that's going to go in there, that you have checked with your references and that you have the correct information in there for them. Because how many times do you go to call someone and the phone number's changed? Well, what happens when you put them in as a reference? That means they can't be reached if you still have the old phone number, right? So what do you do? What do you do in that case? I don't know. I do know that if the phone number is wrong, it can't be read, right? They can't be reached. So that becomes also a part of your checklist. And I'm really struggling here and having some problems. Here we go. So we talked about the checklist. I use this all the time. I promise you. And you can change it, you can adjust it. It is something that we will share with you afterwards. You want to put in here information like what's the due date, the time, and the place. Why is the due date, the time, and the place important? If the due date is, let's say January 14th, and January 14th is a holiday. If there's a parade, I'm going to give you a real life example that a girlfriend of mine went through. She had a procurement that was due. She lived on one side of town. The place that it was due was on the other side of town, and it was during rodeo season. If you guys know what happens during rodeo season, especially kicking off a rodeo, you got horses on the roadway. You got people coming up 610, horses, buggies, all of that, trying to get over to NRG. What happens? Traffic is significantly slowed down. But you got a time, if that is due at 1 o'clock and you get there at 1:15, nobody's going to accept it from you. It's done. You're late. So putting that information in there, knowing where it is so you understand exactly how long it's going to take you to get there to submit it is crucial, right? What's your role? Are you the prime? Are you a subcontractor? Are you a partner? So that you know what your role is and you can assign them accordingly. Who's the project manager? Because guess what? Writing an RFP is a project. It is not to be done by the faint. It is a project and you need somebody to do it. Who's the proposal lead? Who's pulling it together? Who's making sure that these dates are done, these dates are met? How many copies do you need? Do you need 10 copies? So you're not going to be able to print it at your office. You're going to actually need to send it to a printer. Special delivery instructions, the label, and all of this you will find in that RFP. It's going to tell you everything you need to do, but that's why you have to read it so many times. And that's why it's critical to read it with pen and paper so that you're writing notes, so that you're like going back to school and reading a paper. What's the delivery method? Are you hand delivering it? Do you have to mail it off to Austin? How much time is it? We know that today, in today's environment, it takes a lot longer for mail to get from point A to point B. So don't think that you mail it on Monday, it's there by Friday. You better give yourself enough time if you're not hand delivering it. And documents required. Some of these are found in the appendix, but while we're on documents, let's talk about documents for a minute. I am hoping that many of you have what I call your RFP file. And what do I mean by that? Hopefully somewhere on your computer, your laptop, or your files, you have a safety plan, because many organizations are now requiring a safety plan. You have the resumes of your team members, and you do have to tweak that. And we'll talk about that a little later too, but you do have to tweak the resumes so that they sort of match what the proposal is asking for. So you have resumes, you have your org chart designed, you have your proof of insurance. There are some things that are always in every procurement. Are you certified as an MWBE? Do you have your certifications? Sometimes they ask for a copy, sometimes they ask for the certification number and the agency. Do you have all of this information so that you could just grab it out, make the necessary adjustments, and put it with all of your RFP stuff? Hopefully that makes sense. That is critical. As a business owner, I'm going to suggest if you don't have it, you prepare it. Because when it comes time to start doing all of the writing, if you've got to now start going and rewriting resumes or finding the resume or any number of things associated with that, you're going into your time, right? And time is money. Time is money. And time is the one thing you can't get back, right? So if you're spending several hours just recreating a document that you could have already had in a file, pull it out or pull it up on your computer, adjust it as it needs adjusting, you've saved yourself a lot of time, perhaps even a day, because now you're not searching, or the project lead is not searching for all of that information. What are the documents required? Write them down so that you know. So when you're going through this, you know what's expected. What does it tell you about binding? Does it tell you you need to use these types of tabs? It needs to be double spaced. It needs to be on a certain type of paper. All of that is found in that RFP. And you will be surprised that when you, inevitably, the copier at your office will break. It happens so often when you're trying to do it. I don't know why. It's almost as if the copier just knows you're in a rush and it does not want to work for you. So having all of that information, if it's something simple, you could just print it off, then you're good. But if you got to have special paper binders, you don't want to wait till the day before it's due to start going out and trying to create binders and trying to do that, because it takes a lot of time. And then when you're working through your checklist, have a review team. What do I mean by that? I like to have somebody on my team who really doesn't necessarily understand what the proposal is. Why? Because if they're reading through it and they understand it, it means that I've written it in such a way that they can understand it also, which makes it very clear. And I am not saying to dummy down what you're writing. I'm saying to write it clearly. So let's say you have someone in the office who, I don't know, it might be a college intern. Have them read it. See if they understand what you wrote, what you meant, what you said you could do. But you need to have a team, because you need to review that document as many times as I tell you to read the document once you start writing. What's a red team? A red team are those people who are going through it literally with a red pen. They're looking at consistency. They're looking at punctuation. They're looking at conciseness. Does this make sense? Does this read well? And here's the thing. You can have no pride and ownership when you're writing an RFP. When you're writing that RFP and you're preparing it and putting it together, you need to really listen to what other people are saying about what's been written, and then try to rewrite it. But that red pen session is for everybody that's a part of it. And you're reading not only your part, but everybody's portion of it. So if there's a portion on the org chart and the org chart doesn't look right, it needs to be tweaked. You'll need to talk about it, tweak it. If it's a portion on your executive summary and it just doesn't read well, because that executive summary should also kind of match up with what that organization is asking you for when you start talking about the work that you've done. And then I identify what are some of the components. And certainly this list can be added to, taken away from, depending on what you need. But in that checklist, who's responsible for the cover letter, the table of contents, the organization chart, the executive summary, and all of those sections? And I only listed 4 here, but I've done some RFPs and it's been 15 sections because they can get intense. Who's responsible for it? What's the due date? Is it completed? This can be used by everybody to keep everybody on track. So if you are responsible for the executive summary and you see the due dates, and you're sitting in a meeting and everybody else has got their stuff done, you're behind. That means you're holding up the team. This is holding everybody accountable. And it is about accountability too when you're writing an RFP. And what's in the appendix? Who's responsible for that? So when you assign people, there's no question on who's supposed to turn in graphics, right? There's no question on who's supposed to submit the org chart, right? So if, I hope I say it right, Arnisha is responsible for section 4, and she's 2 or 3 hours late with submitting it, it holds up the whole team, right? because that was her due date. And if Angela was responsible for the table of contents and Angela is a day late, you've held up the entire team. And now you see why I said I give wrong dates. Hopefully that makes a little bit more sense now on why I don't necessarily give out the right date, because I've allowed some cushion for some number of things to occur, whatever those things are, because something's going to happen. I can promise you that. It happens all the time. It just, like I said, most of the time it's the printer. Let me tell you one of the number one reasons, top reasons why RFPs do not get accepted. Somebody didn't sign it. Hard to believe, but signatures are in several places. And if you leave a signature out, you may have gotten all 6 of them if there's 6 signatures. If you only have 5, then you didn't fully complete it. So it could be thrown in the trash because it's not a completed RFP. So this quality control portion also helps you with that, right? Oops. Now, oh no. Hold on. Sorry about that. Looks like I lost a piece of it. I went too fast. Here we go. Read the document. Read it. Okay. Read the document, read the proposal, and compare that to your checklist. Don't leave anything blank. If you have nothing to put in there, simply put in NA, not applicable. Resumes. Your resumes should work with the requirements. When you're reading through it and they say they need an environmental specialist that does XYZ, and you see that yours they've done XYZ, but in the resume it says A, B, and C, right? Then you need to be comparing that resume to what was requested. Presentation. Read the document, read the proposal. It said it was supposed to be double spaced. You've got it single spaced. So you know you got to fix that, right? It's a limit of 10 pages. You've printed it out. It's double spaced. It's in the right font. And it's 10.5 pages. You're going to have to go back to the drawing board. You're going to have to cut it down, figure out where that is, and get it back down to 10 pages. That's why I talk about reading that document so often. But now you're going to do some comparisons. In those comparisons, what is requested and what is going to be presented? Do they match up, right? So you're almost reading them comparatively. Okay, so this says I need to have double space. I need to have a person who's responsible for this. I need to identify this. I need to give 5 references. I only have 4. I need to get another reference. So that's how you're reading it this time, right? To compare the two. That is also a very critical piece of responding to that RFP. It's critical. Because if you're writing it and it's not matching up with what they're asking for, then it kind of gets set to the side, because it's normally going to be who's the top people. Sometimes it's based on price. Sometimes it's based on ability. You don't know that. Well, you do know that, right? So here's some tips. Never leave anything blank. Nothing is left blank. You put in an NA, right? Resumes, make sure the work matches the project. Presentation per directions. You want to double check, triple check, quadruple check for accuracy. I would say, again, when you're checking for accuracy, get a college student who has to write a lot of papers to read it, right? Check for signatures. Because here's where your money is. In your experience, you must sell yourself and your ability to perform the work that is required. I talked a little bit about documents on hand. There are some of them. That's a part of also selling yourself. You've got all of the requirements, your references. Do your due diligence. You know, quality verification is what I call it on a reference. If you haven't talked to that person in about 4 or 5 years, and you put them down as a reference, I don't know, what do you think they're going to say? They might say great things about you because your work was absolutely fantabulous. However, you haven't talked to them in 5 years. Are you sure you got the right phone number? Did they leave that company and go somewhere else? So you got the wrong email? Well, if you've got the wrong email, I'm not going to go look. If I'm reading this and I've got to go check your references, I'm not going to try to see if you have the right information. I'm going to go off of what you had. Project descriptions. This is where the meat of your work is done. And I'm going to show you an example in just a minute of doing that. When you're writing descriptions for the work that you've done, right? Because that's also a large part of it. It is critical that it is written very clearly to identify the scope of the work. It's one thing to write that portion of it so that it's short, it's sweet, it gets to the point. But what was your solution? When you're writing it, you want to write it so that you are giving them, this was the project, this was the project, this was what we did, here was our solution, and here's how we met our client's goal, right? Because you're going to have to tell them the work that you've done in the past, and you want to write it that way. So I want you all to take a minute and read this particular project description. Right? Company XYZ completed construction of 4 new station buildings. Also included were new curbs, sidewalks, street pavement, water distribution, sanitary sewer, storm drainage. If I'm reading this, you know what I hear when I'm reading this? Mana. That's what I hear in my ear. Mana. Okay, so you did all of this, but how did you do it? What did you do that was different? What did you do that helped the client? None of that is in there. Did you meet the goals? Did you accomplish what was accomplished? So I'm going to show you a much better written job description or project description. This is the exact same work. But if you read through it and take a minute and read through it, you will see what the project was, who the client was, right? What they did, right? The client was the city of Reno. They hired company XYZ for construction of a depressed alignment for 2.1 miles. What were the key project elements? That was that whole list that was written before, right? That's what it was. But now you see where company X utilized temporary shoring, soil nails. What did the alignment do? It extended the water below the table. This is what the people who are reading that RFP understand. So if you're not able to tell them what you did, how you did it, and what was accomplished, right? What was accomplished? It eliminates the at-grade traffic crossings through the downtown area. It minimizes delays. These are key words. These are key things that people who are reading your proposal are looking to see. They want to know what you do. While the one before that was good, right? It's okay. No, it's not. I'm lying to myself. It's not. It's not good. It's just a bunch of words on a piece of paper. And I think if you're writing this way because you're new, now it's time to step it up, take some time and really realize how to do it. And again, if this is what you do and the type of work you do, then the explanation of how you did it and what you did it, how you did it, what you did, and what it provided becomes some of the things that can be in your RFP file, right? If you're constantly going after shoring work, then you've got examples of what you've done already lined up, project descriptions that you can pull out and drop in and tweak versus having to write it from start to finish. I hope that makes sense. I hope it does. So again, when we talk about, being successful, I'm not going to talk about how you go about doing your work. I wanted to give you and provide you with some tips and some strategies to use. I'm going to go back and talk a little bit about that safety and risk management. In the past, if you are a professional services company, you didn't really see a lot of that. You know, that wasn't what you had to do. I will tell you that today, companies more and more, especially in the environment we live in, are asking you, what is your safety plan? How do you handle risk? If you have not written anything around that, I would take this time, when maybe you're slow, maybe you're not, but I would make sure I have something written around my safety plan, around my risk management. Risk management deals with all kinds of things. You know, think about it from the terms of someone getting hurt and it being on the news. How do you handle that? I certainly went through that with a project that I'm currently on for 288, where we had someone fall from a very high piece. He wasn't ours, did not work for us. He worked for a subcontractor, and that subcontractor did not have a risk plan. And so guess who took the risk and who had to handle all of the news and et cetera and communications? It was the prime. The prime is looking to that sub, which might be you, or you might be the prime. I'm going to tell you to ask your people for a, if you're subcontracting work out, ask them what their safety plan is. How are they going to handle an issue should it happen? So critical. And so now what I like to do is just kind of open it up for Q&A. These are some tips. I really do use these forms. I really do. They have helped me from when I first started out 7 years ago as a business owner going after work. I have taught this class to numerous businesses who tell me that they still use these forms. In fact, I was talking to a friend earlier, and she was like, oh my God, I remember that's when we met, when you taught that class. We still have that form. We still use that when we go after them. Or develop your own. You don't have to use mine, but you know, you should have a checklist. If you don't write your RFPs from a checklist, because you have gone through that RFP several times, you have identified section 1 requires this, section 2 requires this, I got to write it this way, I got to have it's due by this time, it's got to be in a box, it's got to be in a 2-inch binder, not a 1-inch, it's got to be on, I got to put in 3 jump drives. You are doing yourself a disservice. You really are, because you should know all of that ahead of time. What if you get ready to do it and you're ready to now put them on a jump drive and you don't have any? Right? You got to now go to the store. Here we go with time. The one thing you can't get back. Somebody got to go to the store, get a jump drive. God forbid if we lived in Chicago and it was a snowstorm and you can't get to the store. Or here when it's a hurricane. Now in those cases, you know, you might get some more time, but under normal circumstances, because I could be, I'm far north, I'm in Spring. If I've got to deliver it to downtown, right, to the county, to the city, any number of places, and I'm trying to print it out the day of, and I don't have a jump drive, I'm in trouble because my time is way off. So the utilization of checklists is a large key. The other main key I'm going to tell you is know your business. Know how to price your product. You got to know it, because the one thing that I think hurt me personally the most was when I would see people submit a bid and know that there's no way they can do it for that amount of money. And you just go, wow, how are they going to make money off of that? Because they want it so bad. And it's not until you hear those stories of those companies who go out of business because they didn't know how to price their products to make a profit. Again, if you're a nonprofit and you're not about, you know, making money, you enjoy that, okay. But you know, most of the people I know that own a business want to make the money. They want the, I'm going to say cash register for lack of a better term, or they want that ding, ding, ding on their phone because that check has been deposited into their account from successful projects that they're working on, and they want multiple projects, and they want to gain traction to do more and more, because you get the first one, you do a good job, it's possible to get the second one. And if you get it, they may expand what they want you to do, right? So you want to make sure that in order to do that, you've priced it right. You want to look at mobility, right? If you're in construction, what's it going to take you to get all of your people in place, equipment, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, to be ready? And you can a lot of times build that into your bid. You want to know that. What's it going to take? How many people will it really take? Do you need 5 people or do you need 10? Because you've got 10 people, but 5 of them are part-time on another project. And so they won't be ready. So you really need to start off with 10 and maybe you scale down to 5 until the people that you really need are really there, really ready to go. I hope this made sense to everyone. Carol, Tico, that's pretty much my presentation. And I'd like to I want to open up for some questions.
Thank you, Ms. Raynese Edwards. I feel like I just finished the 4 years of college. This was an excellent presentation. And I want to thank you for all the time and effort that you've put in. At this time, does anyone have any questions? I didn't see any questions in the chat, but I have a question. Raynese, how did you go about learning how to set your pricing and fees? Was it trial and error? Is it on a case-by-case basis? You know, how did you formulate that?
Okay, I'm going to make you laugh when I say this. I worked for a consulting firm before I started my own business. And I was fortunate enough to be one of the ones to know what was being charged for my services to clients. I knew what that billable rate was. So when I was laid off and I saw it coming, I had already started my business. This is a real true story. I had already done my DBA, all of it, because I saw the writing on the wall. And I got laid off. And the next day they came to me and said, they hadn't thought it through. And they said, hey, we want you to do A, B, and C for us as a sub or as a W-9, as a 1099. And I said, okay, well, my billable hours are XYZ. And their eyes got this big. But I knew what they charged for me. So why shouldn't I charge that for myself, right? As I was starting out. And over the years, through trial and error, one of my first contracts that I took, I lost money on it. I didn't make a whole lot of money on it at all. Trying to get the business. I didn't charge the right rates, but I needed money coming in the door because I didn't have a job, right? I had a company, I didn't have a job. And there is a difference when you're looking at that. And so I then started to do research on, you know, what were other people charging out there for what I was doing at the time. And that has been where my rates started. And I'm pretty pleased with where they are today because I'm able to get the rate that you know, there's a saying, know your worth. Know your worth. And if somebody is just starting out, I'm going to tell you to do your research. Do your research. See what the going rates are. What are your competitors charging? Maybe you aren't at the level to charge $300 an hour, but can you charge $200? And will you make money on $200? Or maybe it's $100. And it does change. I have different rates with different clients, depending on what all they're asking me to do. If they're asking me the same stuff, right, the rates are pretty similar. But I have some that want to ease, you gotta read that scope. Did they ease in some other stuff? Because it's called scope creep. They start adding more stuff to that scope, right? Well, when they put some more in there, I add some more dollars. That's how I started.
Hey, Carol, this is Tico. I kind of wanted to piggyback on Raynese's in that just as a FYI, you know, when you're talking about your pricing, like you have to think of every little thing. And I'll tell you, you know, a funny story. When I first started, I was actually doing RFP, you know, RFPs and putting them together for folks. And, you know, in my mind, I had my rate, But what I forgot is in my, services, they get a complete package. So I did not figure in the cost of printing, the cost of all of the other things that I needed to put in to that. And so that cost me money. So, it's easy when you're professional service to think that your rate is your rate, but think about your own, supplies and things that that you need to use to be able to go after bids. And then the second thing, I did want to make a comment. Someone in the chat made a comment that they do not budge on their rates. And I do want to note that sometimes when you're bidding government, where I've seen is we've priced ourselves out. And so I think it's okay that your rates are your rates, but you got to understand if you're going after contracts, what people are willing to pay for it. And so they're not going to pay more than they've already paid. And that's when understanding your numbers come into play, because where can you cut or can you cut? So I did just want to, make that, and not necessarily to pick on anybody, but, if your rates are your rates and you're going after something that has a historical record of what they've paid, that could easily knock you out of the money.
Yeah.
Okay, I see Tanisha raised her hand. You want to go ahead and make your comment?
Yes, thank you so much. And I'm not camera ready. I should have been, but I'm gonna. But I was speaking on the rates, and this literally, I'm sitting here with my desk full of RFPs, and I've been through some on the floor. I'm like, I pick and choose of what we're gonna do. But what I did find is what you said. We have to still make profit. We have to pay people. So when I say we won't budge on rates, I'm not saying we're totally frigid. But after we've been outbidded, and I looked at some of the bids that some of the other companies bidded, and they were so low, I'm like, how are they even able to pay or make? It's just some things, you guys. I'm like, we just can't. We're small. If that makes sense. Now
it does. It does,
okay.
And I agree. And that's part of your go or no go, right? When your
Yeah.
checklist, when you're trying to determine, because sometimes you're right. It's just like, would love to do business with you, Metro, but y'all don't pay enough. So you keep it moving. And so that also allows you to focus your time on those RFPs that are profitable. Because sometimes, folks just bid the bid. If it doesn't make sense, then keep it moving.
Yeah.
If it don't make money, it don't make sense.
Doesn't make sense. and there's some, and we know our we know where we can have a little bit of a pass through cost, a little bit, but this was thank you for the transparency. You really just hit the nail on the head for us, and just kind of really encouraged me and my team with this pricing, because it takes its toll on us sometime.
It does.
But thank you so much. This has been great. Thank you to all of you. We appreciate this.
Tanisha, let me share this with you. When you start talking about your pricing, and your price is your price, you also have to realize, is this the environment I want to be working in, right? Do I want to do work for Metro? Do I want to do work for the city? It goes back to that go, no go that I talked about, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm sure you guys have probably already gone through the MWDBE, but that also goes to understanding how people pay. And it's not necessarily in the checklist, but if you can't afford a net 45 or a net 60, that might be a no-go.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so that's a part of the pricing too, that comes in there, understanding how they pay you and when they pay you.
Yeah, we definitely go in with that understanding, and we definitely have our reserves for we're ready, we're ready for the game.
But see, a lot of people are not. And if we're honest, there are any number of people who bid and are not ready to wait 60 days in government contracting. It is not uncommon to be 60 days.
And in what we do, we have to, because we are staffing. So we have to, we have no choice, and we have to pay people. So we have to have that reserve, and we have to understand our nets.
Exactly.
So definitely, but it's still a struggle at times with that pricing. Again,
it's a struggle.
It is. But thank you so much for your time.
Yes,
and the feedback. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to both of you. I'd like to introduce, we have some more questions in the chat, and we'll get to them in just a moment, but Pedro Garcia from Port Houston, who's one of our sponsors today, has a tip that he would like to share with everyone. Pedro?
Carol, can you hear me, Carol?
Yes.
Okay, a great job, Raynese.
Hey, Pedro.
Very great job. And I know we've done some trainings with you with the Urban League, and very insightful. The only thing I have to add, Raynese, as far as tips, in the event that you're not awarded a job, a contract, or a proposal, one thing that we would encourage you is to request a debrief.
Absolutely.
And that can only be done once the contract has been awarded. So typically you would request it through our procurement services department of an organization. With us, it's Office of Procurement. And you submit a request for a debrief. And what will happen is they'll pull your proposal package and they'll review your notes, the staff notes that were taken during the rank and evaluation process. So, and then they'll provide you with tips on how to improve your package when it comes up, when the procurement opportunity comes up again. But that's the only tip I had. If anyone has any questions about opportunities with Port Houston, we do have a initiative for small, minority, and women-owned businesses. So if you're looking for procurement opportunities, training opportunities with Port Houston, give us a call. I did send my contact information through the chat. And again, thank you, Raynese, Carol, Tico. And so I'll end it with that. Thank you.
Pedro, you're going to make me go back and retweak this again, because that, and I say that in all sincerity, because for this very reason, that provides you with so much information on how to get better the next time you go after a proposal with that particular organization. Having that feedback is critical, right? Not getting it, you don't know what you did wrong. But if you get some of that feedback from the organization you submitted to, the next time you go after it, they've already given you the tips that you need to write it, do it, what was missing, what you need to include much better. So yeah, you're gonna make me retweet this.
I think he'll be ready for you, Raynese, with the retweaked version. And Tico, right before we get to the other questions.
Yes, and I think actually this will kind of even answer the other question. And so I just wanted to also send greetings to you all from Commissioner Adrian Garcia, of which I support here at Harris County. And as you guys may know, Harris County has been in the process of implementing an MWBE program, and we are, moving forward, starting to set goals. And so, it's a heavy lift because if many of you know in the contracting community, historically Harris County has not done this. And so, we're changing behaviors, culture, and that's not easy. But, everybody here is advocating and ensuring that we're fair and equitable. And so with that, I put in the chat for everyone a link to a vendor website, and that's to the Precinct 2 page. And if you're interested in doing business with Harris County, you can go onto that link. You can scroll down, and on that, you'll find a couple of things. We did a procurement forum early in the year that was extremely informative. Take some time with that and see if there's a connection for you. Or you can also sign up for Meet the Buyer. And so once a month, my team here in Precinct 2, we do a Meet the Buyer one-on-one. You can do that electronically, and they will help you with your vendor registration and how to maneuver around the county. So, and I want to highly encourage you all to do so because, county government is huge. It's one of the entities, for example, if you go, to Metro, it might just be transportation. Y'all, but Harris County does everything. There's Harris Health, there's security, policing opportunities, there's construction opportunities. I've even seen opportunities for framers, for yoga teachers. So it's important that you register as a vendor. And so to answer the question, all of the entities have what you call vendor registration, and that is how you stay in the know. As you guys know, everything is electronic, things are moving really quickly. So the best way to stay on top of what procurements fit your business is to register as a vendor. And that's not the same as certification. So a vendor registration may take you 5 to 10 minutes, but do that and be creative with your keywords. And so what happens is when there's opportunities or when buyers are looking, say for those smaller purchases, they go to the vendor databases and they look for firms who do that. And so it's a relatively easy thing to do. It doesn't cost you any money to get in the know.
Thank you, Tico. Thank you for
You're
that
welcome.
information. And
You're welcome.
everyone, please certainly see the link there to register as a vendor for Harris County Precinct 2. And just to get to a couple of the questions, Kevin, we will send out the handouts that Raynese has to everyone who registered today. So you'll be able to have a copy for your records. Everyone will have a copy for their records. The next question is it true some RFQs or RFPs come with a predetermined rate or maximum?
That would be a what do you call it, Raynese, an IFB. So RFPs typically have flexibility. When you have your hard rates, those are typically for supplies, things like that will say this is how much we'll pay for it. But an RFP typically does not have a hard rate.
Doesn't have a hard rate. With Tico, I think you would agree that in the back of their minds, they have an idea of what it potentially could cost. Not
Correct.
Specifics, but in the back of their mind. But it doesn't say that that's what you have to bid. And sometimes you see that happen. You know that they kind of had a different price in mind when they put it out and everybody bid on it, and it's a lot higher than what they anticipated. Sometimes they pull it back, restructure it, etc. But it's the IFB, as Tico said, that's going to have kind of that hard pricing in it.
Okay, thank you, Raynese. And we have another question. How often should you check for updated bids?
I don't know if I understand what you mean by updated bids. I think Tico mentioned it when she said, like for the county, you want to go to Bonfire and register. For the city, you want to go on and register with the city as a vendor. With Metro, you want to register as a vendor. If you are registered in all of those places that you want to do business in, I get stuff every day on opportunities. I get more than I need. I get more than I can do, but I also represent some clients. So I get a lot. They come out all the time. If this is gonna sound crazy, but if you want to know what's going on the second Tuesday of every month, connect with Milton Thibodeau. I don't know how he knows, but he has his finger on the pulse of almost every construction project specifically in the city. And when we think about construction, you may not do construction. You need to understand that process, right? So if you are a printer and they are putting out a bid for construction, they have to print. Do you do oversized printing? They have to print stuff, right? You got to think about, you can't think about it came out just for me as a prime. You got to think about those opportunities where as a sub, you can fit in. Here's an example, and I talk about this, and please don't take this wrong, but I talk about the butcher, the baker, and the candlestick maker. Tico has heard me say that since I did work with Metro. Procurements come out, and it comes out for construction. And you go to a pre-bid, and you've got caterers, and you've got, I don't know, I don't know, window washers, some of every candy makers, whatever. You have to figure out how do you fit in there. Now, the reality is that most of these major companies and organizations, they're going to do a dinner, they're going to do a lunch, they're going to do a meeting, they're going to need some food, right? If you've already made some nice with some of them, it's pretty easy to get in there. But if you don't look at that and read it and see what all is in there, then you're going to just think, oh, there's no opportunity for me. And that's not necessarily true. Not necessarily true. You can read through some of it and feel, because guess what? If you are certified, and they have a meeting and they use you as a caterer, they use your numbers. Now, you're not going to get as many opportunities maybe as, you know, the person that does the printing. It didn't come out for printing, but they got printing needs in there. They can utilize you to do their printing, even though it's not said. You have to understand that, right? You have to understand your business and how it fits into some other RFPs. So what does that mean? You have to expand your scope in terms of what your NAICS code is, so that you're getting those procurements also, that you're seeing some of those and not just the ones that come out for a printer. Now that's how I do it. I expand, and you have to be nimble. What do I mean by being nimble? For me, when I was consulting for another company, I was specifically doing work in the MWSBE arena. That's where I was at, right? But I did outreach in that arena. An opportunity came up, and what they wanted me to do was do public information. Well, I had to be very nimble, jump over here. I'm already sharing information in the public. Now I'm just sharing information to a different subset of people, right? So I was nimble enough to say, oh, I can do that, and share with them why I could do it, and got the project, which I'm still on today. So you got to understand what you do and how that fits into the big scope of things. And that's why the pre-bid is important. That's why the pre-bid is important. Hopefully that answered your question.
Well, thank you, Raynese, for that answer. I wanted to ask Denisha, I think she answered your question about what is the best way to find new RFP opportunities. Raynese, would you agree that the best way is to sign up as a vendor and you will get the notices?
You need to be signed up. You need to go and use that link that Tico gave you. You need to go use the link that Pedro gave you. You need to go to Metro. You need to spread yourself wide so that you can catch in your net. So yes, being a vendor helps you to get all of that information.
And Carol, at Port Houston, I'm sure the county does. I would also review the forecast reports and just go to our website. You know, our biggest investment in procurement spend is in the area of construction. And one thing that we do a real good job of is posting those construction projects way ahead of time. And we have them, it's very user friendly. We'll have aerial photos of each project. It gives you a general scope of work, the applicable NIGP codes, and the project manager contact information. So not only in construction, but also we have a projected advertising schedule for projects outside of construction. So you can access those by, you can call me or go to our website, porthouston.com. Thank you.
You know, another way too is sometimes you have to spend some money to invest in your company. So all of those state of the city, state of the county, state of the port, all of those state of events that occur, you might want to put in your budget to attend some of those, because you're going to hear what they're talking about in the future and what they're looking to do because of that, what they talk about in that. And so sometimes you got to spend a few dollars to be able to go to some of those meetings, and or if they post it, which I don't think they really post those, you got to go to it. You got to spend that time. You got to. And it's you know, it's some very valuable information, especially when I talked about, does it fit your strategic plan? Because they could be going a different direction than the direction you want to go. And it will let you know that and save you some time.
All right, thank you, Raynese. I see, Kevin, thank you for reposting Pedro's contact information. We're all working as a team. I like it, I like it. So Tico mentioned our procurement forum, our procurement expo. It was held in September. And so if you want to take the time to look at that, we have it posted on our Greater Houston Black Chamber YouTube channel. Subscribe today and you can see all of those videos, and it was really, really good and informative. So take some time to take a look at that as well. Before we move to close, are there any more questions? I don't see any more in the chat.
Carol, I have one more comment.
Okay.
And I don't want to open up a can of worms, y'all. So, but I'm gonna drop the bomb, then I'm gonna run out the door. If you have not gotten your firm certified as an MWBE or State of Texas hub, I would highly encourage you to do so. Part of the reason for this RFP session and many of the workshops that you'll see come out of the Economic Development Committee is in preparation for contracting opportunity. As you guys know, they've passed the infrastructure bill, Build Back Better, all these things are forthcoming. And so those will be contracting opportunities. And some of those opportunities may be too large and your way in will be as a subcontractor. And so unfortunately, you will have to, utilize a certification, and it does take time. So don't wait to the last minute to miss out on an opportunity. And we've also got the Final Four coming. And when they come and they're looking for services, because they come and they spend money, they go directly to the chamber, but they also go to the City of Houston MWBE database. So make sure you guys, I know it's an arduous process. There's resources for you. Next year, we'll be looking to support you guys with more hands-on with that. If it's been a while, pick it up, dust it off. And I've seen businesses lose opportunities because they didn't have, or they waited to the last minute to get these certifications. And so I just want to make sure that you guys know the rules. So.
Thank you, Tico. We want to be positioned because there's other business coming down the pipe too. The NCAA is coming. People are starting to, really get back out here like they were pre-pandemic, and you want to take advantage of those opportunities as they come to the city. And we have a question in the chat about, is there a fee for certification? And then how do you register for your business for certification? So either Tico or Raynese, if you want to address that.
So there's no fee for City of Houston certification. There is no fee for the State of Texas hub. If you want to get listed as a vendor, there is a fee. I will tell you, people don't really leverage the Office of Business Opportunity as they should. There are certifying agency for the free certifications. They have a workshop where they will walk you through and get you prepared for that process. And so I just want to encourage you all to use your resources, right? Because we're all busy, and I'm just going to go get that certification done. If you take about an hour to do a little pre-work and attend those presentations, it'll help you through the process, just a little bit quicker. And then we do have Houston Minority Supplier Development Council and the WBEA. Those are private certifications, and those are fee-based, based on the size of your business. Sometimes those are more helpful with corporate, but again, when some of the national events come, they look for everybody. So whether you want to take the time to, leverage one of the free certifications or get a private one, just make sure you do it. And I think as far as time, there might be a little bit of a gap, but expect your certification probably realistically to take about 3 to 6 months.
So the sooner the better.
The sooner the better. Yeah.
Yes, the sooner the better. And Arnisha, it looks like she's posting links to WBEA and HMSDC. So please take advantage of, copy and paste these links so that you can have them available to you. Okay, well, we're just about out of time. Time flies when you're having fun and receiving good information. So thank you so much, Raynese, for everything, for your entire presentation. It was sound, and we appreciate the work that you put in to let our members know exactly what's going on. I want to thank the Port, Pedro. You've always been a good friend to the Chamber. Thank you so much. Port Houston and Commissioner Adrian Garcia's office. Thank you, Tico, for always supporting the Chamber. And We appreciate Commissioner Garcia for his work in the small business community. He has definitely been a champion through Harris County to make sure that our businesses get a fair shake and that we get paid. So we thank him for that. So just a few things. This event concludes our chamber calendar for the year. So please stay tuned for what we have coming up in 2022. Our annual meeting will post in January. We will have that event and we will let you all know the date for that. So please stay tuned for that. That's the annual meeting where you'll hear about what we'll be doing for 2022 and also gear up to be involved. We want you to be involved in our committee structure. If you're a member, the Economic Development Committee put on this webinar today, and you can certainly have the opportunity to volunteer, network, find out about what's going on in the city by joining one of our committees, and you can do so at ghbcc.com. And lastly, again, I'm making a call for membership. Please sign up today if you haven't already at ghbcc.com/membership. We would love for you to join our team and assist us in continuing to bring great programming such as this one. And last but not least, we are in the throes of our annual giving campaign where you can make a tax-deductible donation to the Greater Houston Black Chamber Foundation to support programming like this and also to provide scholarships for high school students on their way to college. So again, thank you for joining us today. I'm your interim president, Carol Guest, and I look forward to seeing you all next year. Please let us know how you like today's presentation by commenting on Facebook, where this flyer is posted, or on Instagram. You all have a wonderful day. It's been our pleasure to serve you this year, and we look forward to seeing you next year. Take care.
Thank you, Carol.